Hey you, and welcome back to my channel. I have a confession to make. Uh actually I've been okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm kind of
Obsessed with Vampire Diaries.
what is it? Like maybe like 3 years too late to hop on like the Delana train, but I'm on it. And I love Damon so much. Like, listen, I've had this fight a couple of times with my boyfriend. Like, which one do you choose? Do you choose Damon or Stefan? And he thinks I'm just like the most basic for being obsessed with the bad boy. But because I have been binge watching Vampire Diaries for a while. And I had just started watching the Ted Bundy, the documentary, and the Ted Bundy Zac Efron film, which was I thought it was really good for so many reasons, but I digress. So I'm comparing, contrasting this Ted Bundy and like Damon, and I'm realizing that like this whole psychopath thing is really, really trendy, and I think that it's pretty easy for people to kind of gravitate towards that kind of energy because like the thing is you don't it's not as if you can actually read people's minds and be like, "Oh, I know you killed a woman last night." Like a lot of times these are people who've had to like really really study what it is that makes someone charismatic and what make because they have to, because they don't have the natural impulses, like they don't understand a lot of things about human nature. So in order to become the perfect predator, they have to like kind of gain what would be the most attractive, right? And that makes sense. So like with Damon, he's a vampire, so he's beautiful, he's immortal. Most of the time they're freaking rich, and like they offer a mystique and mystery that like just normal human guys, I mean the average normal human guy, they kind of like, it's like I compare it to like when men take selfies and when women take selfies. Like women take selfies with different angles. They have their friends hold them. They know it's good lighting. And men will typically do an angle where it's like you see straight up into their nostrils because they're just not that self-aware. And like vampire Damon is like all is like the quintessential coiffed guy. And like so is Ted Bundy. Like very well, okay, here's my thing about Ted Bundy. He he is supposedly very very like attractive and charming. I don't know what it is about him, but I don't really find him attractive. Like I when I look at him, he seems kind of creepy to me. So I don't know. I can't vouch for that. But when I was watching the trial of him, like taking over his trial and trying to like usurp the people that were supposed to be on his team or whatever you want to call that, like that kind of bravado, that kind of like strength, I guess, is something that I think like most women are like kind of innately like attracted to. So it's like there's that. They're super super funny. Like Damon says some of the funniest stuff in the show. Like he oh god, he cracks me up. He's so hilarious. And that's like the other thing, like if you're really good looking and you somehow manage to gain a sense of humor, I mean, you've already done what most like well, a lot of dudes like don't try. If they're really good looking, like sometimes they're just not as funny, and then like sometimes more average looking guys are hilarious, but they're not necessarily trying. They're not necessarily so good at like man grooming, or they're not necessarily like super model looking, which is fine. Like everybody is beautiful in their own way. But I'm saying like what makes psychopaths like into perfect predators of like women, if that's what they typically what if that's what their end game anyway. It could be anything. It could be kids, it could be kids, it could be men, women, whoever they like, I guess satisfies that urge. So like that's what kind of like struck me, I should say, as something that kind of made me more self-aware, because when I was watching the Ted Bundy series, I was like,
I think I would be able to be like, I'm not, no, I don't need to help you with anything to your car, sir. Good day.
but here I am, super attracted to this guy who admitted that he's a psychopath. Like, I watched him go and do horrible things to people on this show, like kill a lot of Elena's friends, literally mentally abuses one of her best friends, like, and still I'm like, oh no, Damon all the way. Like, it's really messed up. It's super messed up, actually. And the other thing about the whole hot psychopath, hot serial killer thing is that in real life, Ted Bundy actually did have groupies during his like trial. So there would be women that would actually show up to this trial and they would watch it. And you know, a lot of people can do that. I mean, nowadays that's happened in a lot of like really public court cases. I think this was the very first one that was televised. So the difference would be that these girls would show up and they would try to make themselves look like his victims. So they would get their hair the same kind of they said the perfect shade of brown, like a middle part, small hoop earrings, like try to attract this man. But I mean, I guess disregard the fact that that's who he wanted to rape and kill. Ted Bundy also received hundreds of fan letters, probably more, honestly. And one apparently even creeped him out by a woman named Janet, which in all actuality, good. But anyway, so he only sent back a letter to her once, but after which she was so overjoyed by this moment that like she wrote back saying, oh, well, you know, I have to admit that I'm crying here. I feel like I can't even take it anymore. You know, I have to be with you. Something along those lines. And she started coming to the trial and she would sit next to his then fiance, another one of his like crazy fans, but she actually knew him from real life. And I'll talk about that in a second. But like, she would sit right next to Janet, and then he would tell, not Janet, Janet was sitting right next to Carol. And then he would go and tell his fiance, then Carol, you know, please have her remove herself because she looks like she's just staring at me like with her googly eyes like a meal. I feel like her, like he said something along the lines of like, I'm a clam and I feel like she's spreading the sauce all over me, which coming from him is a little rich, but okay. So amidst all this whole Ted Bundy is hot movement, I hope we're actually kind of like thinking about what we're saying right now, because in all reality, I mean, there are people who are just like Ted Bundy out there who are charismatic and charming who could actually harm people. So don't get too swept up in it. And that's saying a lot. Because I still stand Damon in the Vampire Diaries. It's like my guilty guilt. It's my guilty fix. What can you say? I don't know. Either way, there's so many more actually stories like this of like serial killers, psychopaths having huge groupies, and I can make like a whole nother video about it. I hope you guys are super enjoying this right now, all the stuff that I'm putting out there. Mostly I'm focusing on like pop culture and just really cool stuff, like trends that I notice and like my take on how it's affecting like our society and stuff like that. So if you enjoy what you're seeing, go ahead and hit the like button. Please subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.